My name is Simon Kiss. I'm the director of the Laurier Institute for the Study of Public Opinion and Policy at Wilfrid Laurier University. And I'm an associate professor in Wilfrid Laurier's Digital Media and Journalism program at Brantford. So LISPOP is a research center supported by the Office of Research Services at Wilfrid Laurier. And we have a mandate to promote interdisciplinary research into the interaction of public opinion and policy. So that's a very broad field. We get to do a lot of different things, and we get to stay on top of what issues arise and are topical, and dedicate some of Laurier's resources and scholarly expertise to disseminating knowledge and understanding about public opinion and policy. It's not hard to describe the motivation for today's forum because it's blatant that we have a very serious problem in Canada, and specifically in Ontario, in terms of the cost and the availability of housing. At one end of the scale, there's been a period of astonishing price increases and market dynamics where houses are bought and sold in minutes. And at the other end of the scale, there's a fairly significant social catastrophe in terms of the increased experience of homelessness. In Kitchener-Waterloo alone, there are 2 significant housing encampments with winter approaching. In Brantford, near Laurier's second campus, people are tenting on the shores of the Grand River at a scale I've never seen before, and I've worked here for 12 years. So on the not too controversial assumption that public opinion, however you measure it, or whatever part of it you want to look at, is a fairly important force in shaping public policy, we at LISPOP, we took the opportunity to commission a survey of Ontario voters in the most recent election campaign with a focus on voter attitudes to housing and housing policy. And we're going to share a sliver of those findings in several presentations today. But in order to really maximize the knowledge and the understanding that we can kind of gain from that experience, we wanted to go further and leverage those results by bringing together other scholars, policymakers, and community groups to this forum that we put together today. So we're very grateful for everyone who's agreed to come, participate, share their findings and their work, hopefully to the end that we can disseminate understanding, knowledge, facilitate discussion, collaboration, build new relationships, so that somehow, somewhere, some way, the problem of challenges people have getting homes can be addressed. So we had really hoped to make this primarily a face-to-face event, but it didn't seem that that was right quite yet in the cards. So we've had to make do, and we've tried to structure the event in such a way as to maximize the opportunity for networking and interaction, so even remotely. Now, there's a copy of the day's agenda at a link that will drop in the chat. You can get there at the LISPOP website. It's lispop.ca, so that you can follow along. And we've set up the agenda in such a way so as we can make this as energizing as possible and minimize the fatigue associated with remote meetings as best we can. So we've tried to schedule several short breaks through the day to give people a chance to refresh. We've also set the panels up to be slightly shorter in length. And we're going to ask a few things for people to do to facilitate a kind of interaction. So, for example, we were hoping people to ask people to take a moment to drop your name and your affiliations in the chat, so that people in the audience can get a sense of who you are, who's here, and who we're all dealing with. So I can go first. And hopefully that'll help us, give us a chance to see who we're dealing with and who's following along. For the presentations, we'll be pinning the panelists for each panel on the virtual galleries. So we don't think, as far as we can tell, audience members will be visible, but we'll be monitoring the chat. And there should be time for a question and answer period at the end of each presentation. We're going to have everybody muted for the duration of each presentation. If you'd like to ask a question, use the raise your hand feature, and the moderator for the panel will ask you to unmute yourself to pose your question. I'll also take a moment to introduce LISPOP's research associate, Dr. Matthew Arp, who is right now the host of the meeting. You should feel free to ping him or myself with any questions, concerns, or challenges that you're having related to the event. And yeah, so now we had intended to have the Dean of Arts come and deliver some welcome remarks on the issue of housing. And she has had to decline to attend because she's feeling ill. So that leaves us just already a little bit ahead of schedule, which is not the worst thing in the world. That will let us have a bit more time, hopefully, for a question and answer for our first speaker, which is Dr. Mike Moffat, to deliver a keynote address for today's forum. So Mike is an assistant professor at Western University's Ivey Business School and the director of policy innovation at the Smart Prosperity Institute, a policy think tank in Ottawa. Now, if you're at all the least bit engaged in housing issues, you have any kind of social presence on social media, you'll be familiar with Mike's frankly riveting work documenting population migrations in, around, and out of Southern Ontario, where the housing affordability crisis is perhaps the most acute. And I know I'll just speak from personal experience in the lead to the last election, when it was clear that housing was going to be a major issue. Basically, I was kind of following all of Mike's information that he was gathering and disseminating because it was extremely on point, topical, and insightful. And I hope I won't preempt his presentation when I say that he is known for presenting a forceful case for the thesis that the underlying problem Ontario and Canada faces is that we have a severe shortage of housing, and we have to get more houses and apartments built in order to address many of the challenges that motivate this conference. So with that, I will turn the forum over to Mike. Mike, the floor is yours, and I'm looking forward to hearing what you have to say.